You have found the Jordy Culotta Show right here on YouTube. We go live Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. on the campus of Click Here Digital in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where we serve up premium LSU content. Hard-hitting guests, opinions that you can find Monday through Friday. If you want that, subscribe right here on the link that you see below. Coach Kelly, we're official.
Finally,
I'm
get a
telling
chance to meet you.
Thought I had to get a private audience with the Pope. There's Jordy.
Monday through Friday from 7 to 9. Yeah, you see the notification, we about to go live. We got all your favorite guests, we got them in line. It's the Jordy Culotta Show, come have a good time.
Tearing up, answering the question, and I thought, my God, if she gets offered this job, she's going to take it.
It's just a crazy, fun time at LSU right now. Isn't this what everybody loves?
From the boot to the east to the west coast, no matter where we at, open up the phone lines, come and join the show. Make sure you tell your friends about Jordy Culotta Show, yeah.
Let's go! Let's go!
All right.
Big start. Big day.
Nice start.
It's the Jordy Culotta Show, come have a good time.
Thank you for the time. Logan, good morning. Thank you for the time, man.
Good morning. Appreciate the invite. Looking forward to this upcoming weekend, Florida State, LSU. It's going to be a fun one in Orlando.
First off, man, I hope everybody is safe that is dealing with the storm. Obviously, you look like all is good, but how did everybody do over there?
Everything good. So I'm actually in St. Pete, been traveling up and back and to Tallahassee quite a bit, but St. Pete just had to worry about the storm surge and everything. And Tallahassee, my family's all up there, and they made it out just fine. So luckily that cone didn't get too close to Tallahassee because too many pine trees, oak trees. It's just ridiculous how much of the power outage it can cause. So luckily everybody's pretty safe, and now all can be focused towards this weekend. Like every FSU fan wants to get down to Orlando as soon as possible. Obviously,
a huge build-up over here in Baton Rouge for the game, as there is over there in that part of the country leading into this one on Sunday night. When I look at these two teams, Logan, when I look at LSU and Florida State side by side, it's kind of eerie how similar they are. When you look at this matchup, what do you see going into this weekend?
There it is. We just recorded our show last night previewing this game, and it's crazy the amount of athletes and talent from both sides of the ball that we're going to be seeing on Sunday evening. I mean, you're looking at two Heisman candidates. You've got Jordan Travis and also Jaden Daniels. But then on the other side, you've got Perkins, you've got Verse on defensively for both Florida State and LSU. You've got talent at wide receiver. You've got some defensive backs that need to create some answers. And, there's a lot of things, too, looking at the offensive line, defensive line, in the trenches. I know LSU going to feel a little bit more comfortable going into this game than last year. But then you look on the other side of Florida State's defensive line, you're bringing in some talent. You brought in Western Michigan defensive tackle Braden Fisk, who will make his debut and Camping World Stadium. So there's a lot of similarities between both squads in this upcoming game. And, Mike Norvell and Brian Kelly once again going at it to begin their season. So, and a lot of hype. There's a lot of hype. There's a lot of expectations, and Florida State really hasn't had that in a while. LSU being a lot closer to that. So, it's just going to depend on who can take on the most pressure. But both teams expected to, make it to their conference championships and then potentially get a college football playoff berth. So there's so many good storylines to this. But yes, too many similarities, and that just is going to set us up for what should be a fun weekend.
It felt like this LSU game got the heat off of Norvell's back last year locally. Is that the case, and what is the feeling of him going into this season?
That was sort of the case, yeah. That was his biggest win by far, and his tenure at Florida State, something that he needed. I think, too, also boosted recruiting. During that game, they had a lot of targets in attendance. Just for them to be there and see that Florida State can compete to the caliber of a talent like LSU has. Brian Kelly, a phenomenal college football coach, and to go down on the road too, I think that was something really important that really stood out to FSU fans while they're also watching on television that Florida State has kind of taken that next step, matured, has created a lot of accountability, and that locker room, something Mike Norvell had to work on immediately once getting into Tallahassee. He had to work a lot in that locker room and building leaders, and now they've got a team that has been able to kind of be player-led rather than coach-led, and that's something that Mike Norvell and his staff has been wanting to do, and it helps a ton whenever you're able to keep a lot of your assistants on the same team for a couple of years. It kind of builds continuity that was much needed. So that one was huge. It was big, and still, though, there's a few question marks just for Mike. You got to be able to compete, and you got to beat these ranked teams. So not all is just finished for Mike. There's a lot of things that he still needs to accomplish, but a lot of high expectations for a coach that is going into his fourth season, and he knows how big Florida State is as a football program and brand, and showing on the recruiting trail. But you still got to get things done on the field, and we'll see if they can answer a lot of that pressure this upcoming season.
One of the things that we've heard being outside of the market over there, Logan, is that it's been difficult for Florida State to get back to the table and compete because of the commitment or the non-commitment of NIL, facilities, all of the things that it takes to really compete with the big players of college football: Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, LSU, Michigan, and the bunch. Where is that right now with Florida State?
Ooh, if we were talking about this a year ago, I wouldn't have a whole ton much to say. Looking at a few NILs, Florida State introduced Rising Spear pretty early on, and that was specifically directed towards a few of the football program, but really widespread across other sports and the program, including women's, who have done a fantastic job at the university in the last almost decade, I would say. And now we saw a shift here, though, with the Battles In that was introduced from Ingram Smith, who's leading that charge, and it was specifically towards keeping kind of retention on football players. As we know, Jordan Travis is coming back. We've got Johnny Wilson. Florida State's going to have Trey Benson, Fabian Lovett. Maybe the biggest one here, Jared Verse, who announced last that he would be returning for the 2023 season. The Battles In is something that has kind of boosted big time in Florida State's favor, and the backing of kind of some anonymous donors that don't make me want to put their names out there too much. They kind of want to just do things on the back end, and it's going and it's helping a ton. And it's just off of regular brand deals and helping out a lot of these players get things done and having their agents help them and guide them through the process. It's something Florida State players needed, and we've seen that process accelerate and accelerate and accelerate. And just to see a lot of these guys coming back, and not even your superstar players. You've got some sophomores, you've got some redshirt freshmen too that are signing these deals with the Battles In. And so, like I said, a year ago, it was kind of bare bones. There wasn't much to work with. But right now, Florida State now kind of just depending on rankings. I don't know NIL rankings, but they're doing a good job, and I think they're a top 10 team in the country. And now with also Florida's law, Florida State as coaches can also kind of be hands-on a little bit, can also advertise their the NIL organizations and help that. So it goes in their favor quite a bit.
When I look at this game, Logan, I think it comes down from LSU's standpoint. Are they going to be able to guard Florida State on the outside? LSU had to dip into the transfer portal and really grab a bunch of new faces to play cornerback this year. They'll have some first-year guys at LSU playing out there, guarding guys like Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson. What is the key to this game from Florida State standpoint, in your opinion, or is there something that you look at in this matchup that you worry that Florida State may have a difficult time doing?
Well, going back to last year specifically, looking at Jordan Travis and also Jaden Daniels too, but specifically J-Trav, we didn't see him as a complete passer. That was a question mark going into that season for FSU. Could he take that next stride? Also, a new quarterbacks coach with Tony Tokars. Kenny Dillingham now off doing his thing with Arizona State, but was coaching over there with Jordan Travis and developing him. He steps off and also was a right-hand man to Mike Norvell. So you kind of had to find an answer there for Jordan Travis, who obviously still needed to be developed and continuing to build his passing game, which was, something that he was maybe lacking or was a concern for people across the country, but he was able to make that next step, and we saw that at the LSU game specifically, connecting quite a bit with Ontario Wilson, who needs to be noted. He's not on the roster. He's over there with the LA Chargers right now. Ontario Wilson is. So Florida State's got to find an answer for who can take that step deep for the Seminoles. They brought in Keon Coleman, as we know, Michigan State wide receiver transfer, who has had an excellent fall camp. I think it really is going to come down to how much chemistry has Jordan Travis built with his wide receiver set, as we know, too. Also, Johnny Wilson being a projected big-time impact player for Florida State this upcoming year, also making returns. And then also you brought in Jaheim Bell, South Carolina transfer tight end, which over there in South Carolina, they could not figure out a way to utilize him. Mike Norvell pressed that quite a bit during his recruitment, that we're going to make sure we put you in the right spot as a playmaker. And there's a reason why Bell didn't take too long in picking Florida State and to play for this offense and Jordan Travis. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting scenario for LSU and that defense and that secondary that's been looking for some answers through camp, and see who's going to have to step up. But it's also interesting, too. Florida State had a week 0 game last year. This year, you start off week 1. There's no warm-up, tune-up game. You're going right at it against a really talented LSU front seven. So it's not going to be any easy task for Mike Norvell and Jordan Travis.
Yeah, that's a good point. We weren't talking a lot about that. Yeah, we talked a lot about it last year in the lead-up that there was a game beforehand, but now this year it's not been as much of a storyline, as both of these teams will be meeting each other for the first time here in the regular season. How is Florida State feeling at linebacker going into this matchup? It seems like they're really good defensively, but I haven't heard much about the second level of the defense. Where are they at that point?
So you're bringing back all of your starters from last year, and I think that played a big part also in NIL, and mentioning the battles in there, keeping retention. And, there's a lot of snaps between all these guys, with DJ Lundy, who has, from what we heard from defensive coordinator Adam Fuller, had the most improvement as a linebacker on the roster, and he's been with the program, which feels like 3 to 4 years, which is actually that. But then you got Kalen DeLoach, who is your best, probably east to west guy, can move him in coverage, probably one of your best tacklers there. And you've got Tatum Bethune, former UCF transfer from last year. He's in 2 years now into this system. And then you've got some youngsters that you're going to have to rely on. But if guys can stay healthy and everything throughout this game, they fine. But the experience there that Randy Shannon has in his linebacker unit is going to be big. And, you looking back at last year, LSU made a run there at the very end of the game, and there was some question marks of that linebacker room, and making sure you're keeping an eye on Jaden Daniels and what he could do with his legs. And, the biggest thing I'm kind of watching out for, if Jaden Daniels takes that next step as a passer like we saw with Jordan Travis last year, this is going to be a whole different game than what we saw in 2022.
Yeah. Logan, real quick, one for you on the way out. The future of Florida State, it feels as if they're very unsettled in the ACC. It feels as if they want to be a part of a conference like the SEC or the Big Ten that really respects football and puts a premium on it. Where's the position of Florida State in the ACC, and what's the future feel like?
Ooh, it feels
right.
It definitely feels different. It definitely doesn't feel like Florida State wants to be in their current conference. I thought, too, during the Board of Trustees meeting that went public, and they did that on purpose. I think they had over 1,000 people watching on YouTube, everybody tuning in. You got your President McCullough, saying, if things don't change revenue share-wise, then we've got to look into getting out. And, Florida State has been looking to get out for multiple years now. But with Michael Alford, Florida State's athletic director, coming in and really putting in a whole ton of work. He actually built a team on the side to look into this, get out of this GOR that Florida State is stuck in within the ACC. I'm looking at Clemson too. And, Florida State just can't do this solo dolo, though. They're going to have Clemson to ride with them, and also North Carolina. North Carolina kind of just doesn't feel like they want to go all in and dip out. And other schools in the ACC just aren't big enough to that magnitude of where they can bring in a big media rights deal, and they can't really jump ship with them. Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, Miami, they have that they have that stage where they can make that step. But Florida State kind of felt solo there. And, Florida State fans as a fan base, they would love to just take whoever is going to bring the most money. But geographically, they would like to go into the SEC. And, Florida State, as a fan base, they would also say that they aren't, a couple of years ago, weren't ready for the SEC. And I think, too, as a program, they'd say the same. But now they believe a ton in Mike Norvell. You could listen to that Board of Trustees meeting, all of those trustees talking highly of what they think the program is and where it's at and where it could be under Mike, and continuing to build his extension within the program and keep the staff there. So there's a lot of kind of antsiness to try to move on and get out of the ACC, but it's not happening anytime soon. I'd say probably 2-3 years could be the expectation where Florida State is no longer in the ACC. Just too many question marks right now in this conference, and Florida State is bringing too many views as a team, as a program, as a brand onto ESPN and all these other media networks, and they're just not getting the money that they probably do deserve.
Logan, looking forward to Sunday, man. Glad to hear you guys made it safe through the storm, and we'll see you what should be a great college football matchup here in Week 1 between Florida State and LSU. Thanks for the insight.
Yeah, man. Thank y'all. Have a great rest of y'all's week.
Logan, real quick, what's no doubt that cat has a Florida State football player's name?
No, it's literally actually from a Game of Thrones character.
Oh, one of the two.
She's always in here. Yeah, she steals the show for me, man. She's always got to be on here and get on camera, so I'm glad she held it down for me.
Absolutely. Watching your back.
Appreciate you, bro.
Yep, exactly. Thank you, guys. Have a great week.
You have found the Jordy Culotta Show right here on YouTube. We go live Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. on the campus of Click Here Digital in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where we serve up premium LSU content. Hard-hitting guests, opinions that you can find Monday through Friday. If you want that, subscribe right here on the link that you see below.